Look, the era of the charismatic, fast-talking solo salesperson, it's completely dead. Today, we're tearing down those old ways of doing business and exploring a highly structured approach to the modern market. Welcome to This Explainer. We're going to unpack the core concepts that basically act as a survival guide for modern commerce. We'll reveal exactly why relying on individual heroics is a massive recipe for failure today and how we actually need to build institutional frameworks instead. So, if you want to understand why traditional tactics are suddenly falling totally flat and how to pivot effectively, you are absolutely in the right place. Let's get into it.
All right, here is our roadmap for today. We're looking at 4 key areas. First, the massive consumer behavior shift. Second, the pre- and post-pandemic dynamics. Third, the move from rock stars to institutions. And finally, number 4, the consultative selling framework. So I want you to just stop and think about your own buying habits over the last few years. Seriously, do you still just blindly trust a smooth pitch? Or do you find yourself doing, days of independent research, looking up peer reviews, and hunting for social proof before you even think about taking a meeting? Well, you're not alone. The whole foundation of modern business strategy begins with acknowledging that the person on the other side of the transaction has fundamentally evolved. Buyers are so much more guarded now. They have incredibly high expectations for absolute transparency and verifiable value. It's a whole new ballgame. Okay, let's jump right into section 1, the consumer behavior shift, and why we absolutely have to relook at how the market operates. The reality here is that we just cannot rely on 2019 assumptions anymore. The modern consumer is hyper-informed and, frankly, highly skeptical. Things that drove a purchase decision back in the day, like a really great interpersonal relationship or some flashy presentation, might literally be completely irrelevant right now. Today's buyers, they're prioritizing risk mitigation, they want data security, and they demand a verifiable return on investment over a firm handshake or a fancy lunch. The baseline of trust has essentially been reset to 0. So to succeed, we really have to wipe the slate clean and study this new buyer psychology as if we're meeting them for the very first time. You've got to understand that every single touch point is now heavily scrutinized for authenticity. Which brings us to section 2. Let's look at the pre- and post-pandemic landscape and this really stark historical divide in consumerism. There's this massive fault line in modern commerce right now. Before the pandemic, established patterns of trust were kind of just taken for granted, right? Business was super interpersonal, relying heavily on those face-to-face meetings and casual relationship building. But after the pandemic, those patterns totally fractured. We moved abruptly into a remote, digital-first reality. And in this reality, trust is incredibly hard to earn, and wow, is it easy to lose. Buyers now retreat into committees. They want internal consensus rather than just relying on one person's gut feeling. Bridging this enormous gap requires entirely new methodologies, because if you try applying a before-the-pandemic strategy today, you are going to instantly alienate an after-the-pandemic consumer. Moving on to section 3, going from rock stars to institutions. This is all about the necessary evolution of sales tactics. For decades, organizations leaned so heavily on the rock star. You know the type, the uniquely charismatic lone wolf who could magically close deals based on personal flair, intuition, and sometimes just sheer aggressive tactics. They had the golden Rolodex, right? But the post-pandemic reality demands something entirely different: institutional values. Today's consumers are looking for stability. They want the reliability and structured consistency that comes from an entire organization operating seamlessly. They want to know the whole machine works, not just that they happen to have a really slick account manager. They demand predictable outcomes delivered by a unified team. This shift from rock stars to institutional values perfectly encapsulates the necessary death of that old ego-driven sales culture. I mean, think about it for a second. If a client buys strictly into your rock star, what happens when that star gets a better offer and leaves the company? Yet the client almost always leaves right out the door with them. Institutionalizing your value means that deep expertise, rigorous process, and core trust are literally baked into the DNA of the entire organization. It becomes systemic, it's highly predictable, and it is vastly more appealing to today's risk-averse buyer. They want long-term security, not just a one-off performance. All right, section 4. Let's talk about the structural solution to all of this, the consultative selling framework. Because the market has so decisively shifted toward institutional values, the way we engage just has to become deeply consultative. And let me be clear, consultative selling is absolutely no longer about pushing a product or leading with a flashy feature pitch. It's a structured, diagnostic approach. It's kind of like metaphorically sitting on the exact same side of the table as the buyer. You're acting as an expert advisor, analyzing their very specific, complex pain points, and actually co-creating a solution that aligns perfectly with how the post-pandemic consumer wants to buy. It's all about deep discovery now, not just rapid deployment. So you might be wondering, how do we practically move away from this rock star mentality and actually implement this rigorous institutional approach? Well, we need a highly specific curriculum. Mastering consultative selling requires 3 distinct structural components. First up, we have the 3 pillars. These are your absolute foundational principles. Think deep empathy for the client's business, rigorous data analysis rather than just guessing, and unwavering transparency in every single interaction. Second is the model. This is the operational blueprint. It dictates exactly how a lead is nurtured from the very first contact through the discovery phase all the way to a closed deal and right into customer success. And third, the tools. These are your practical instruments, things like specific diagnostic question frameworks, account mapping templates, and precise CRM integrations that are required to execute the model flawlessly every single day. Now, this isn't a buffet where you can just pick and choose what sounds fun, okay? It's a strict, necessary progression. You literally cannot jump straight to using the tools without deeply understanding the model. If you do, you're just mechanizing bad habits. And the entire model collapses if it isn't built on the solid bedrock of the 3 pillars. It is a deeply intentional, step-by-step journey of discovery. By meticulously locking these steps in, a business ensures its success isn't dependent on, say, one individual's mood on a random Tuesday, but rather on a rigorously designed, bulletproof system. The ultimate value of implementing this entire framework is profound predictability and resilience. When you apply consultative selling correctly, you aren't just making a quick sale, you're building a fortified wall around your client relationships. You are directly answering the profound needs of a post-pandemic consumer who craves safety, clarity, and institutional trust way more than individual showmanship. And the payoff? This ultimately leads to significantly higher retention rates, much larger contract values, and massive, sustainable, long-term growth for the whole company. It's a total game changer. So as we bring this all together, surviving and truly thriving in the post-pandemic market requires a full, unyielding commitment to this institutional structure. It requires taking a really hard look at reality, recognizing that the era of the solo hero is firmly in the past, and doing the rigorous, disciplined work to embed the pillars, the model, and the tools of consultative selling into your company's absolute foundation. Because at the end of the day, that is exactly how you build lasting, unshakable value today. I'm going to leave you with this final thought to really challenge how your organization is adapting right now. Look closely at your sales and engagement processes today. Where are you deeply vulnerable because you're still relying on a rock star? And what exactly is going to happen to your revenue when they eventually leave the stage? Think about it. It is time to build the institution. Thank you so much for joining me on this explainer, and I'll see you next time.